Hello and welcome to the Fen Den. I'm your host, Sean Allen Fenn, and my goal is to win your hearts and to change your minds. Have you seen the Mr. Rogers movie? It is excellent. There is a documentary about Mr. Rogers. If you don't know who Mr. Rogers was, I have a friend who didn't grow up here. He grew up in London, so he didn't know who Mr. Rogers was. So if you don't know, Mr. Rogers was an American television personality. He was a musician, he was a puppeteer, a writer, producer, and he was a Presbyterian minister. His purpose was to care for children. He was like a Jim Henson kind of person in that he was just extraordinary, and he had an incredible imagination. The show had low production value. It was slow. It wasn't fast-paced. It wasn't loud and obnoxious. And that is what made it so subversive. And what really made it so subversive is Mr. Rogers' message to children is that you are loved just the way you are. And his message of love is what made him so subversive, especially when contrasted with the capitalist society that we live in that markets products to children. And our culture shapes the attitudes of children to be consumers as soon as possible. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that in and of itself. I think it's good for the economy to buy and sell things, and transactions are good. The difference is, and the reason why there was actually a backlash against Mr. Rogers, is that he, number one, he would talk about topics that no one at the time would handle. For instance, the Vietnam War. He would talk about divorce. He would talk about death. And this was a children's show. While his message was about love, it was also about anger and emotions and how to make sense of the world. That's why he was so special. But the backlash came because his message that you are enough just the way you are, you're good enough, you don't have to earn love. And I think people confused that message with the notion that he was saying you don't have to earn any sort of merited reward for what you have or for what you get. Which, in other words, you are entitled to whatever. I mean, second place is just as good as first place, and there's no need for competition. I think that's the way it sort of unraveled in people's minds. And from the standpoint of actually needing to contribute to society, I think it was totally misconstrued. Someone kind of started that interpretation of Mr. Rogers' message, and that caused a backlash. And so as a result, it may have been true that actually on a subconscious level, for children who watched Mr. Rogers, that message was embedded in their minds. And I'm speaking for me, and I'm going to talk about that in this podcast. This is the Fen Den podcast with your host, Sean Allen Fenn. And I'm going to actually cut to a a message that I recorded on the street yesterday that will go into this a little bit further, and it is about the state of things, the state of where I'm at, and I'm going to be real with you on this episode, and going forward. You know, if you've been following my podcast or anything that I do for a little bit, you may have started to see like how the shape, the turn of events is unfolding, and it's interesting. It's wild. Well, I highly recommend going to see the documentary about Mr. Rogers. Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's called. It is excellent, and it's so easy to blame Mr. Rogers for a person's like shortcomings or failures. Like it's so easy to do that, and I hint at that in the next segment, how there on a certain level my mind may have been brainwashed by this kind of thinking that I'm special, a special little snowflake, and I should be recognized, and I don't know. I'm just kind of unpacking my psyche to you, being transparent about, looking at the ways that the limiting beliefs that hold us back, and acknowledging the things that can be acknowledged and can be changed in an effort to move towards the goal that you are achieving, and move towards the goals that I'm achieving, and that's to make a meaningful contribution. And that meaningful contribution is through art and through things like this podcast. And thank you for listening. I'm going to cut to the next segment. What do you want to be known for? Who do you want to be? How are you spending your time? For me, time is the most precious thing. So it's like gold, it's like diamonds for me. Okay, but sometimes when things get rough, you gotta go to the pawn shop and sell your diamonds and sell your gold, right? So I know everybody has things they're going through. I'm no different, you're no different. But check it out. I just wanted to take a sec and get real. So clear up any kind of confusion or misconstrued ideas. I don't know if everybody knows my story, but about 8 years ago, this summer, 8 years ago, I hit rock bottom. Hear that? Somebody's hurt. Can you see the ambulance? I don't know. Alright, but I hit rock bottom, right? And it was the most horrible feeling to feel that hopeless. And I don't wish that on anybody. I really felt hopeless. Well, fortunately, I had people, my parents, and some other really good people that helped me through it. And when I came out of it, as I sort of, started dusting myself off and getting back out there, starting to work again. I had been working as a makeup artist for 20 years. I've been working mostly in department stores for different cosmetic brands, and I, on the side, was making music. And the reason I hit rock bottom is I really lost my bearings. I lost my integrity, and thought I could be a rock star. My intentions were off for wanting to be a rock star, but wanting to give to the world is the true important thing for me. I don't know if it is for you, but wanting to make a meaningful contribution. Hear all these sirens. There is only so much time on this planet that we have. It's finite. Okay? Look at the man behind me. I don't know what his story is, but he's lived longer than I have. And it's a reminder that only now do I have this body, and I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful for my potential and my people in my life. I don't forget to be grateful, and don't you forget to be grateful either. It's the best way to snap out of it if you start to get bummed out or depressed about something. But to get back to my point, I started working again, and I was working at a department store, looking at the people around me who were also working there. Some of them of retirement age, like in their 60s, still doing the same thing. And I knew I was broke, and I knew they were broke too. And at the rate I was going, that was going to be my future, to be in my 60s, still doing the same thing, working for a W-2. And I was terrified. I wanted more. I wanted more in life. I'm not satisfied with just getting by. I don't think we're here on this planet to just get by and just barely have enough. I understand we have to struggle, and there are lessons in the struggle, and for some of us, we're struggling sometimes when we don't have to be, and sometimes you walk in on someone in the middle of their struggle and you don't know where they are in their life. But I say that to say that I wanted more, and I didn't know what to do. So all I knew was I just had to do something. So I decided to go back to school, and by this time I was almost 40. So could you imagine going back to college and you're almost 40, and I lived in the dorm, which was interesting. I hadn't done that before. I don't want to do it again, but not to belittle the college thing, because it's the right move for some people. It's just, for me, it wasn't worth the amount of debt. And so there I was in the same place, broke, and now I had a bunch of student loan debt. I was broke, and all I wanted to do was to not be broke, and I wanted to break free of the cycle. Okay, and that's when I had to make a decision. and I couldn't afford to go to school. You know, at that point, I didn't know how to go out and make enough money to pay for my school by myself. I just didn't have that skill. And you hear about people who have lemonade stands from their kids and they're always out there hustling. I wasn't born with that gift. I remember in school I was selling knives. There was this program where this company came in and had kids sell knives, and I was no good at it. In fact, I was so bad at it because of my attitude. I remember not. I don't know how I got this idea. Some people think it's Mr. Rogers because Mr. Rogers was on TV when I was a kid, and he would tell everyone they're special and they don't have to do anything to earn love. Maybe that was why, but I didn't know how to earn, and I wanted to be special, so I couldn't sell these knives because I didn't feel like I was special by selling these. It's a crazy way of thinking, but I have to acknowledge that and shatter those beliefs. Like, for some people, they think they're not good enough. For some people, think they're too good. Either way, no matter how you cut it, they're beliefs that are like roadblocks that you need to push aside, break down, shatter, get over them. So I struggled with that, and there I was in the student loan debt, and I went to art school, had a couple of really good teachers. I actually did learn a lot. It's a good school. It's just like the actual reward for the cost was not there, because I wanted validation in the form of a piece of paper so I could get hired for a job that would hopefully pay me enough to pay off the student loans that I accumulated to be able to get the job. It just doesn't make any sense, especially with the price of inflation. Rents are going up, food is going up, and if your paycheck is staying the same and you have all this crushing student loan debt, the interest is rising, I mean, good luck paying that off. Some people are lucky enough not to have to deal with that, but at least for me, it wasn't going to work. So I started self-educating, and I picked up some books on how to make money, because that was my problem, right? Is I never had enough money, because I didn't have that skill, so I needed to learn it. And I started off with a book by Robert Kiyosaki, and then I started reading more and more books, to the point where I sought out after getting a mentor, and went through bought some programs from Tai Lopez and Grant Cardone, and went all in, and I still have gone all in on fixing the limiting beliefs, and fixing the areas in that I had struggled with, but also learning to double down on my strengths and delegate as much as I can that is not my strength. So here I am. Like I said, I was working as a makeup artist for like 20 years, and I decided to start a business. After I stopped going to school, I just wanted to start a business and start an online business. And I became an artist and wanted to do something with that. So I started a website that I wanted to be much more than just a place for my art, but I wanted it to be bigger. I wanted it to be a brand, and eventually go global. Okay, but I still need to be in the right vehicle in terms of making a living. And in that process, I took this challenge to shrink, to collapse time. So the time that it would take for me to become who I am 3 years in the future, I wanted to shrink that, so I collapsed that time. Okay, I don't know if I made that clear, but see, time and money, time is not money, but the two are related. That's why they say time is money, of course, but those two things, time and money, are measurements, okay, for something a little more abstract. And if they're abstract, then they're malleable. All right, maybe I'll save that for another video, but I took this challenge to collapse time. So I knew the job that I was doing was not the right vehicle, so I let it go. And I think I was a little too overconfident. And so here I am, my back is against the wall. And I gotta do something big. Now. Fast. Fortunately, I have been working with the art gallery as an art advisor, because that's the language I speak is art and contemporary art, and being able to demystify it for people and kind of extrapolate where the value comes in and what makes it meaningful and where it is in history and why it would be important and why someone would want. Look, everybody has problems. I'm here on East 96th and 2nd, and there's just people going about their lives, dealing with their own problems. So I get it. You know, I'm not special, but you know, we just gotta work. We just gotta work. And let me tell you something. If it was true that hard work was enough, then you would see all these people who are working hard, they would be millionaires right now. So there's something else. There's something else to it. And it's about staying true to your purpose and following principles that align with your desired outcome.
But I have to put I got towels in there. I gotta take them out.
If you follow and subscribe, I'll talk more about that. Okay? But here I am, and I'll let you go in a second. But I just want to invite you, if there's anything that I can help you with, I just want to know what has happened in your life that brought you where you are. And if you could tell me what big, important project that you're working on right now that you could use help with. If I can help you, I will. And if I can't, then I will find someone who can for you. Okay, so I want to leave you with that. And God bless. Thank you for being awesome. My name is Sean Allen Fenn. In conclusion, I'm so glad that I can do this podcast for you. It is an honor. I could not do this without you guys. Well, I could, but it just wouldn't be as rewarding. And I do it to connect with people. So let me hear from you. I just want to give whatever I can, encouragement, share with you what I'm learning on this journey of, you can hear the New York City in the background, in this journey of New York City with the sirens and the subways and the hustle and bustle, you know, we are becoming the best version of ourselves. Unlike other people who are not listening to the Fenden podcast, you and I are on a mission to become the best version of ourselves and to contribute to the world. So let me help you with whatever you're working on, your most important project that you're working on. Please send me a message and let me know if I can help you. And like I said, if I can't, then I will help find someone who can. And it's just an honor for me to have you listening. Again, I do this for free. I don't expect anything in return. But if something did resonate with you, I do have a Patreon where you can contribute if you want to make a monetary contribution and sponsor this podcast. Patreon.com/Fenden, FENNDEN. And just you do you, boo-boo. You are perfect. I like you just the way you are. Thanks for listening.